What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. So, if you remember here, that Democratic Senator Joe Manchin, who a lot of people are like, Jimmy, he's not a Democrat, he's a Republican. But he votes most of the time with the Democrats, but leans a little bit Republican here. He voted with the Democrats for the Inflation Reduction Act, which was a little bit controversial here, but also helped to lower prescriptions for seniors on Medicare and had some good things in there. And it also is going to let Medicare negotiate prescription costs here coming up here as well, and also lower insulin prices here as well. Well, now Senator Joe Manchin is threatening to sue the Biden administration here, saying not everything is as it seems. Take a listen to what he has to say here.
Joining us now, Senator Joe Manchin, Democrat from West Virginia. Senator, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Hey, Shannon, good to be with you.
Okay, so you're getting a lot of attention this week for an op-ed that you wrote. It sounds like you're having potential second thoughts about the deal you made to get the Inflation Reduction Act passed. You say the administration is attempting at every turn to implement the bill it wanted, not the bill Congress actually passed. Have you discussed it? Will you discuss it with President Biden?
I sure hope so, and I've been discussing it with all of his, basically administration, and I'm very, very disappointed in how they have interpreted a piece of legislation that is not how it was written. It was not the intent, and it's not the agreement that President Biden and I had. So I'm hoping that he intervenes and basically says, listen, we need energy security. We have to produce fossil energy cleaner and better than ever before, but we need an amount of it that we can be energy independent and secured as a nation. We can also invest in the technologies that will have energy for the future. We did both. And they're trying to now implement a bill, Shannon, that we didn't write. And it's a bill they didn't pass. So just do our job. Follow the law. Do your job.
So I know that one of the sticking points seems to be the new regulations that came out, the proposed regulations with respect to electric vehicles, about how much of that should be domestic production. You know, the White House is going to say they're relying on experts for these regulations, and there's now a public comment period open to anybody who wants to weigh in. I mean, isn't that the protocol?
Well, the protocol would have been to implement the bill exactly. We laid out the bill and wrote the bill in a way that it told you what was sourcing and processing and what was manufacturing. The whole purpose is to bring basically reliable supply chains to America, be able to manufacture the batteries and cars here to get the tax credits. That's what it's about. Energy security, bringing down the cost of healthcare, pharmaceuticals, and we've done that. But if they don't implement it in a way that it was written and implement it in a way they desire, they just want to throw caution to the wind and put more money out and throw more money from the Treasury in credits that basically are not going to accelerate how quickly that we can be totally self-reliant in America. There's nothing wrong with us bringing manufacturing. We should not be dependent and relying on China's supply chain. You know, I said I'm old enough to remember standing in line in 1974 to buy gasoline to go to work. I don't want to stand in line to buy a battery to run a vehicle and waiting on it from China. That's what we're doing, and that's what the intent of the bill was.
Okay, to the point of whether or not you got snookered in making this deal with the White House, Hot Air writes this. It says Manchin wants to distance himself from the administration he enabled with the Inflation Reduction Act and really wants to distance himself from its results, but that's impossible. The vote on the IRA came down to Manchin. Manchin negotiated its terms, and Manchin endorsed its policies and the lack of control the legislation had on Biden's use of the bill. If Manchin wants to talk about political malpractice, maybe he should look in the mirror. Your response?
Well, that's ridiculous. I mean, from the standpoint, we write pieces of legislation. We expect the administration to adhere to the intent and how we wrote it. It's in the bill. Read the law. So anybody who has that opinion has not read the bill. What we have to do now, we have a process so we can hold their feet accountable. I can tell you, we brought down inflation. We can do an awful lot more. We've got more drilling going on. We're producing more oil and gas than we did before. And we're more reliant on ourselves than we were on foreign supply chains. We can do all of this. This bill was written for one purpose: energy security, bring down the cost of drugs, be able to pay down debt, which we hadn't done in 20 years, But now when they want to blow the cap off of it, I'm going to fight and fight back hard. And I would hope that my Democrat and Republican people, friends, and in legislature especially, would feel the same way and work with us to hold the administration's feet to the fire.
So you
It was
have
not throwing caution to the wind. We
Yeah.
have runaway inflation right now. We still have high inflation. We have a debt ceiling that's going to be crashing upon us, and we're not doing anything to address that. Not
Well,
even talking
some
about
of
it.
the analysts out there, though, will look at the Inflation Reduction Act and say, even looking at CBO scoring and other, Penn Wharton, they will say this Inflation Reduction bill was never going to solve that problem. So even if we still have those problems now, does that lie somewhat at your feet for voting for this?
Shannon, the bottom line is when you have a chance to do something and make it better, when you have basically an administration was going away from the dependable, reliable fossil fuels that we have to run the country for energy security, when we're relying, we were saying maybe we can take the sanctions off of Iran. Come on, you're going to take the sanctions off of a country that promotes the most horrific terrorist support around the world and give them more revenue to do harm to humankind? And we know that we have to have our own reliable resources, and we can do it right here in America, and we weren't doing it. You're going to sit back and say, well, I'm afraid politically it might not be popular. I've got to do what I think that is the best thing I can for my country, and I think that we did a piece of legislation that'll do exactly what it was intended to do. We've got to make sure the administration now administers the way it's supposed to. The bottom line is we have brought down, we have put more product into the market. We have just done more leasing and permitting than we've done. We need a permitting bill that changes how fast we're able to get this done, and we have Democrats and Republicans agreeing that it needs to be done. We just got to put a piece of legislation that works. We've got to work together as the United States and not allowing the political diversity of this country keep pushing us further and further to the extremes.
And I know that you think the extremes
what's
are pulling both parties to the far left, to the far right. You've said you'll do what's best for your country, and a lot of
Correct.
people are wondering whether you think that might mean a third party run for the White House. Politico says this, that you're not deciding on anything until the end of the year, but you're also pointedly refusing to rule out a presidential run on a third party ticket. Do you rule it out today? Is it still on the table?
Here's the thing. Only in America do we start the next election the day after the last election.
It's
And
underway.
I've not done that. I said that's underway, but not. I'm going to do my job. I want to get this credit, this debt ceiling. I want to get this behind us, pay our debts, start trying to get our expenses down. We can do this. We can reel in the amount of expenses that we have and the debt that we're accumulating. For 21 years, Shannon, we have spent more money in America than we've taken in. You can't run your household that way. No business can survive that way. But yet here we are. We're not doing our budget process the way we're supposed to get it done on time. That saves billions of dollars. I've got a lot of work to do, and every other senator and congressperson does.
Can
But
a
everybody's
President
worried about
Manchin-
the election.
Can a President Manchin, though, better influence that conversation?
Well, everybody's worried about who's running for what and who's going to be this. My main concern, can we start a dialogue? People are wore out, Shannon. They're tired. All we have is this bickering and fighting. They says, can't you come together? So if we can start a dialogue where the middle, can't we basically bring the extremes back to where they're supposed to be
I'm gonna put
in a
you
sensible,
down.
reasonable middle?
I'm going to put you down for not ruling it out. We'll leave that there, but I want to get a quick reaction from you about President Trump's indictment.
Sure. It's just a very, very sad day for America. Very sad day. Especially when people are maybe believing that the rule of law or justice is not working the way it's supposed to and it's biased. We can't have that. Abraham Lincoln said a house divided cannot stand. And we cannot divide our country. But on the other hand, no one's above the law. But no one should be targeted by the law. So let's wait and see what comes out next week. I pray that what they come out and whatever comes out, that they have done a thorough examination, have done a thorough job as far as showing that the rule of law does work for all of us. And we'll just have to wait and see on that. But it's a very sad day.
Yeah, so it looks like Senator Joe Manchin not too happy with the Biden administration about a few points in the Inflation Reduction Act and maybe a few more. Remember that it really took them months and months and months to get that deal done. And remember that deal came down from trillions of dollars to less than $1 trillion. There was some pretty good things in that bill, if you ask me, like reducing the cost of insulin, reducing the cost of Medicare, which will cap prescription drugs for seniors at $2,000 a year, which is about $166 a month. That will be kicking in here, and basically there will be a cap that you can pay no more than that of $2,000 a year for prescription drugs here. Also, there will be Medicare will be able to negotiate the cost of prescription drugs, a set amount here, and then more moving forward, which the VA, the Veterans Affairs, has been able to do for years. And it's a proven fact that the VA pays millions or billions, I think it's billions of dollars less every single year than Medicare does. I don't know why this hasn't been allowed to for years, but at least that's gotten done here. Remember, all the Republicans voted no against this, and I get that each party kind of has their agenda, and the Republicans are against a lot of things in this bill, but there are some good things in this bill, and I get the whole Republicans are against like the green energy parts of it and stuff like that. Another thing I like is that it reduces the cost of insulin for people on Medicare, and they almost got it done for reducing the cost of insulin for everybody on private health care. They needed a few more votes from Republicans. I think they needed 7 more votes. They got some Republicans to vote for it. It was three more votes or 7 more votes. I don't have the information right here in front of me. They got a few Republicans to vote for it. They needed a few more, and they just couldn't get the deal done for some reason. I can't even figure this one out, to be honest. But since then, pharmaceutical company Eli Lilly, which is one of the pharmaceutical giants, has stepped in on their own accord. And I don't know, due to political pressure or maybe just for goodwill or whatever, they stepped in now just here recently, like in the last month or so, and actually lowered insulin costs on their own to $35. So that is really, really good there. And this will help millions and millions of Americans. And remember, there are people that actually die every single year because they can't afford insulin and have to ration it or can't even get it at all. So there are a lot of good things from this bill, whether you're for it, against it, or not. I mean, some of these things I don't even think people can argue with me about. I think it's just pretty much almost fact. Now, I get that there's other stuff in the bill that you could argue about. I get it. But some of this stuff is really, really good. Okay. So, yeah, you can let me know your thoughts here in the comments, and hopefully we can keep lowering the cost of prescription drugs. And, Senator Joe Manchin, I think he's doing a decent job with trying to hold the political middle line on energy costs for America, because, green energy with like, solar, wind, nuclear power, things like that, while also trying to keep gas prices and oil prices and stuff, keep that in there as well, because obviously we need that here in our country. I think he does a pretty decent job of trying to, remember, he's the, what is he, the U.S. Energy Chairman. I think he does a decent job of trying to keep that there, because remember, we have to kind of balance both. We can't just rely just on gas and oil. We've seen how that is just rising. Remember, back when I was in high school, gas was below $1 a gallon. Some of you guys remember gas well below $1 a gallon. So we know the gas is just going to continue to get higher and higher and higher. And now, our energy grid uses renewables, because let's just think about this realistically. When you put up a solar panel, or when you put up a wind turbine, or something along those lines, for the most part, when you put it up, it doesn't cost anything afterwards. Very, very little. I mean, maybe a little bit of maintenance or something. But if you put solar panels on your roof and let's just say you paid for them outright, like the government can. The government will put out a field of solar panels, right? For the most part, they're paid for, and then they're just going to produce energy for decades afterwards, years and years and years and years. Oil and gas isn't like that. You got to keep getting it out of the ground over and over and over and over. And we know that the cost goes up every year. The cost of gas goes up over time. So this other type of energy is good for our electrical grid and stuff like that because it helps bring the cost down. We know that the cost of gas is going up. The cost of oil is going up over time. Every 5 to 10 years, it's just getting higher. Think about how low gas was 20 years ago, and think about how high gas is going to be 10 or 20 years from now. It's just getting more expensive. But when they build solar and wind power and they put it there now, 20 years from now, those solar panels are still going to be there. Those wind turbines are still going to be there. Yeah, maybe there's a little bit of maintenance. Maybe they have to replace the blades or something like that. But it's much, much cheaper. So there's a balance between, yes, we still need oil and gas, but we also want to build these other things for our power grid because it helps bring down the pressure of oil. It means that the government isn't using as much gas and oil on a government level, which means that we don't have as much demand for oil and gas as well. So when you have to use oil, gas for your home heating or your car heating, it actually helps bring that price down because if the government's using it all, it'll bring more demand for it and actually will make the price higher when you go to fill up your gas tank. Yeah, so there's a balance there. So let me know your thoughts here in the comments. I'll keep you up to date here on our YouTube channel. It's completely free to subscribe, so make sure you do so right now so you don't miss out on new videos, and click the bell icon afterwards. New videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And don't forget to hit the like button for us. It really helps out our YouTube channel. Here's some videos you should watch next. Vladimir Putin just warned his own citizens about nuclear survival. Click here to watch that video. And here's a video I just did about Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and for low and middle income Americans. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.